Jeremy Allen White's been yapping.
Doing some gum flapping, as it were. Making an appearance on Good Morning America, starting to make the press rounds.
Yeah, so he's promoting a different movie where he plays Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
And they asked him about his role in The Mandalorian Grogu. And yes, we all knew that he was going to be in it, but I don't think we ever got official confirmation of, like, he is for sure Rotta the Hutt. That's the way he pronounces it, by the way, not Roto, like I've been pronouncing it. Rotta the Hutt, who is Jabba the Hutt's son. And I want to read a quote from him, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll just kind of dive into it. He said, "It was exciting, you know, it's funny. I met Jon Favreau, who directed the film and the series prior, and I've been such a huge fan of Jon's for a very long time. So we talked about movies, and I asked about swingers, and he said, would you like to come in and maybe talk to me about doing a voiceover for Star Wars? I said, I love Star Wars. I'd be happy to. And then in the moment, almost, I discovered the weight of the character I was voicing, and quite literally, probably like this guy,
like he is an enormous. He has mass. Yeah. I mean, Rotta is supposed to be jacked. I mean, the traps and lats we saw on him from the trailer. You know, it's no joke. But I think he was probably more referring to the role in the narrative that the character plays, which. You know, that's interesting. Of course, every actor wants to think that their character makes or breaks the plot and is pivotal and important and everything like that. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But that seems to indicate that it's at least not like a cameo. It's not like he came in for 20 minutes, laid down a few lines, and was out of there. It seems to be like maybe more of a a actual part of the, like, integral part of the cast and stuff, more so than maybe we initially thought. But we are just reading into what he said on a talk show. So,
well, I do think that it confirms that, like, yeah, he probably is very central to the plot. Like the very first rumor we got about the Mandalorian Grogu in terms of plot was that it's actually a very similar plot to the very first Clone Wars movie, where Rotta is captured by Count Dooku, and Anakin and Ahsoka have to, like, save him and all that stuff. Like, it's very similar. But then also with that rumor was that Embo was going to be the main antagonist of the film. I think this probably confirms that Embo rumor as well. Like, okay, so yeah, that's Rotta the Hutt. He probably has a big role in this movie. I would say that the Embo rumor probably is true then, if that came along with it, like prepackaged with it. And then, like, that's easier to keep under wraps and a little bit more secret because Dave Filoni plays him. You know, like, sure, you'd have a stuntman playing the actual body stuff, but Dave Filoni voices him, so it's not like you're getting a big name actor for Embo. Yeah.
And, you know, if depending on the extent to which the character is going to be motion capture or practical, if it's leaning towards the motion capture side of things, you know, nobody would even really need to know what the character looked like on set, depending on, again, the extent of we have no idea if Embo is going to be on screen, how they're bringing him to live action. But, you know, it's all interesting to think about. I'm just excited to see, you know, the Mandalorian and Grogu mentioned in any kind of promotional press circuit
for
capacity.
Real.
So,
like, yeah, like the teaser came out, but like we talked about before, it came out at a weird time. I feel like it probably was a little overshadowed. Didn't pop probably like they wanted it to. So, like, it's one of those things. I think they just wanted to attach it to Tron Ares in hopes that some people would go see that movie, and it didn't work. Nobody's going to see that movie. Sorry.
No.
My bad, but here, so, like, I don't know. It's just nice to hear some things about it because I feel like I know more about Starfighter than I do the Mandalorian and Grogu, and Starfighter is filming and the Mandalorian and Grogu is pretty much done. Now, I will say, like, Jeremy Allen White said that he recorded his lines a long time ago in the interview, but he said that very recently he's going to go back and do some more things because Pedro right now is doing some more voice work for the movie right now. So I don't know if that means there's going to be, like, different scenes. Maybe they'll go back and do some pickups and stuff like that. I don't know what that means in terms of post-production, but they're still kind of recording ADR for that.
Yeah. They may have been waiting to do, scenes in which he has interaction with Din. They may have been waiting for Pedro to be free for them to actually record in the room together.
Yeah.
I know Dave Filoni has a history of doing that with the Rebels cast. They often would, actually be in the booth talking to each other, recording in real time and stuff like that. And we've seen Pedro doing a lot of that kind of more immersive voice acting. Like I love the shots of him carrying around the pillow as Grogu. It's good. So it could be that they shot everything that Din wasn't involved with previously, and then now they've got Pedro scheduled. That's just a little theory. But who knows? It could be pickups, anything that they needed to reshoot or change or anything like that. Who knows what the extent is? But I don't know. It's just fun to see activity.
It's so much fun. And really, that's kind of what we're going to be focusing a lot on this particular episode. As we take just a 1 week break in between season 1 of the Mandalorian Rewatch and season 2, starting next week, we had to kind of get our bearings a little bit, confirm some things, and get things ready that are in motion before we start season 2. So that's coming next week if you're expecting the season 2 premiere episode. Don't go anywhere because I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. We're going to be talking about the MandoVerse a ton on this episode of like, okay, so where are we at and where are we going with it? What is the end game with the Mandalorian and Grogu and Ahsoka, the Book of Boba Fett, Skeleton Crew, all of it? Where are we going with it? We're going to be focusing a lot on this episode about that. It's a heavy speculation episode, which I think is a lot of fun.
Of course it is. Yeah, and we've also got some rumblings about some other upcoming Star Wars things that we'll mention.
Yeah.
And then also we got some terrible news this week that Drew Struzan had passed away. We're going to take just a little bit of time to reflect on his career and everything that he's done for not only Star Wars but just the film industry and entertainment industry, as a whole.
Let's talk about Drew Struzan just a little bit before we jump into the rest of this episode, because his impact on Star Wars is so huge in terms of just the incredible movie posters that he drew. And then also, like, he did a lot of book covers too, especially in the Bantam era of Star Wars. Just some very memorable posters that kind of just linger with you. But he didn't only do Star Wars. I mean, he did pretty much all the movies that we loved growing up. He had a hand in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he did so many things for Star Wars, but not only Star Wars. He also did Raiders of the Lost Ark, a lot of Steven Spielberg projects like E.T. All kinds of stuff. But he just has a particular way of distilling like what a story feels like into an image that you look at. Like you kind of looking at his artwork, it tells the full spectrum of emotion that story contains. It's not just one thing. It's he has a way of capturing the scale of something. And so for projects like Star Wars that are just larger than life, galaxy spanning, he had just a special way of not only like recreating the things really well. He could draw and recreate the actors, all the ships and the droids and everything. He could recreate those things well, but he also added to them. I think they're almost more accurate to the characters that you experience watching the movie than like a live action portrait of the actor in a costume. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think there is a way in which he just composed a poster that like just drew you in, number one, but then also like just gets right at the heart of the movie. I think of just like, it just captures in one image what the entire movie is about. And I think he was an expert at that. Yeah. I know he's going to be missed severely, but also I wanted to ask, like, what is your favorite poster that he's ever done?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go outside of Star Wars for this one. I really love the director's cut Blade Runner poster / I think it also ended up as the DVD cover. But it was not the original theatrical run. It was when Ridley Scott, wanted to kind of reclaim a story that was really meddled in by the studio, and he didn't get to relay his exact vision for, and had a lot of his control taken away from him in that process. And I think the original theatrical run Blade Runner poster, it's good. It's a good piece of art. I'm not sure who did it at the just off the top of my head. But when you look at Drew Struzan's poster, it just is so much more accurate to all of the feelings, and not only that, but the really like existential concepts that are being dealt with, and the environment of like New Los Angeles in this neon soaked rain city. Just like his image of that, he captured at a time where Ridley Scott was also trying to kind of recapture what he intended for Blade Runner and everything like that. I think Drew Struzan's poster, does that accurately. And it was actually, he did concepts for the original poster, and the studio were like, nah, we're going to go in a different direction. I don't think this is accurate. And the ones that Ridley Scott ended up going with are just slightly updated versions of his original draft. So like, he knew what the movie was better than the studio did from the jump, So I think the story behind it, not only just the art piece, but also the way he captures that story in that poster. That's probably my pick.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the New Hope Special Edition poster. That's my favorite one. I don't know if you just look at it. That is Star Wars to me, of like the color palette of it. Number one, kind of that bright golden sun almost in the middle of it. You got all the characters lined up perfectly. It's just a beautiful, beautiful poster. And that's probably my favorite one. It's just, I feel like that one captures what Star Wars is in one image. Is that.
Especially, there's something about the rectangular background that's framing everything, but then all of the images on top are like bursting out of it, like it can't be contained. There's something, it's so dynamic. That's a great one. I love all the special edition ones. Also, special shout out to his Revenge of the Jedi poster. Before it was changed to Return of the Jedi, he actually did the mock-ups that went out. That have Revenge as the title. So
is that the one with the hand? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it's like a big Vader head, and then Luke and Vader fighting in front of it. It's all red. It's
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
So great artist. He will be very missed, and our thoughts are with his family. And we just. We want to honor him and thank him for his contributions, not only to Star Wars, but just movies in general, which, if you're listening to this podcast, I assume that you probably enjoy a lot of his work, just because even if you didn't know who he was, I'm sure you've seen his posters before and were amazed by them. So just an incredible guy and artist. So we're going to miss him. For sure.
Yep. Thanks so much for everything you did for us, Drew. We'll miss you.
Yeah.
And you are listening to Children of the Watch. I'm Mac Lacey.
And I'm Alex Maxwell. And like I said, today we're taking a little pause from the Mandalorian Rewatch after season 1. We just finished and wrapped that up. So if you haven't finished, this is the perfect week to go back and finish that, get caught up. And starting next week, on next Thursday, you're going to get season 2, episode 9, The Marshal. We're going to be talking Cobb Vanth, probably with some people. I don't want to say just yet. I got to get that confirmed. But we're looking at having some guests and stuff. So definitely get caught up, and then watch that episode before next week, next Thursday. Maybe watch it Wednesday night, and then the podcast will be ready for you on Thursday. I can't wait to talk about that episode. It's so good. But what we're going to be doing on this episode is we're going to be answering some questions. Number one, from our Patreon Discord. I put it out there on the Discord of like, hey, we're going to be doing this type of episode. What are some things that are on your mind some things that you maybe want to talk about on the podcast. And so we're going to be talking about those. But then there's also some publishing news that came out from New York Comic Con that I think are a really big deal and might give us a hint at the direction of what Lucasfilm is thinking in terms of like, okay, this is where we need to start shifting our focus, and that might give us some clues as well. So I wanted to talk about those things with you. But before we do all of that, I do want to say you need to go check out our merch website, keepthewatch.com, because we have got an incredible new selection of shirts called Friends Everywhere. I'm going to show you kind of a little mock-up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. It says, I have friends everywhere on the front with the Andor logo, but on the back, we've included at least a character from every Star Wars television show, live action television show, just to kind of represent that side of things, what we cover the most and kind of what we're known for. And so it's a really, really incredible shirt, and there's like a sweatshirt that you could buy. There's a crop top. There's a kid's shirt. I mean, there's all sorts of versions of this if you want over on keepthewatch.com. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm flashing a QR code up on the screen that you can actually go right now to our website, just scan that, and it will take you to the website, and you'll be able to look at that merch. And we've got other things there too. And all of that helps support the podcast in a huge, huge way. Other way that you could support the podcast is checking out our Patreon, patreon.com/The Mandalorian Watch. It's just for $2 a month. You get access to everything for just $2 a month, which is $24 a year, which is cheaper than a New York cocktail. We learned that through our Discord and on a voicemail. So think about it.
Well, I think that's pretty much the business out of the way. You want to get into some news, some rumors, some patron questions?
Let's do it. So this past weekend we had New York Comic Con, and Lucasfilm usually does like a huge publishing panel. Kind of save that stuff for New York Comic Con. I was really, really hoping we would be getting an announcement on Mandalorian and Grogu tie-in novels, and nothing. I don't know if that means that nothing is coming. Maybe they weren't ready to announce that and start pushing that. I kind of feel like we probably won't be getting those things. I feel like that was probably the place to announce that, because we are getting a visual dictionary, which I'm very thankful for, and we are getting an art of book for the movie and season 3 and the Book of Boba Fett, like kind of all in one.
Okay. Yeah. I've been waiting for that season 3, the art of, because we've got 1 and 2. I've got them sitting on the shelf over there.
The Acolyte one's coming out soon too. I'm very to get that one.
Yeah, that one I definitely want.
Gotta have it.
Give me the insights. Give me the secrets.
For sure. And then man, I think I would kill for an Ahsoka.
Oh yeah,
art of, right? I mean, come on. There's so many like Dave Filoni little drawings in that too.
Oh yeah, I don't think that, just with what that story is, I don't think they'll be able to do one until it's done.
Yeah, I agree.
But I hope we end up getting more tie-in stuff for the Mandalorian and Grogu, because that's just a way to make the lead up for a film feel exciting, like there's momentum, like you're joining something, you're coming alongside something, instead of like the movie happening to you. With a lot of the front end work for the Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm a little worried that it's gonna kind of come and go and not make the splash it needs to.
I am too, dude. Like, just the signaling of we don't have any books or anything ready.
Right.
Like, is this just to like stay afloat? What is this? Like, I don't, like if this were just to put out because like Bob Iger made you do it, it feels less special. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, just wait till Starfighter.
Right. Exactly. You've already got that. And like, I think everybody was kind of clamoring for a season 4 of The Mandalorian. Which, maybe the movie will still leave a possibility. Who knows? But I don't know. I'm just getting a little antsy that it's not more in the zeitgeist that it's coming out. And also just worried about the and we don't know. We can't. It's hard to gauge what's actually going on internally about stuff, but it seems like there's almost a lack of faith in the project internally from like Disney in particular. And that doesn't mean anything about the quality of the storytelling or anything like that. Because, those two things are just, if a studio likes a movie and if the audiences are going to like a movie are two completely different things. But like,
for sure.
I feel like if they were really excited about the story that they were about to put out, there'd just be a little more movement on it. I don't know if it's just a symptom of it coming from TV onto film and they don't know how to change up, the rollout that way. I'm not sure, but I'm just a little disappointed with the lack of momentum and energy and buzz surrounding it.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think I have the same fears as you in terms of like, I don't want ever, especially Star Wars Return to theater, to feel non-consequential. Like it needs to feel like a big deal. Now, I think as we get closer to the ramp up of it, like in March, April, and early May, I think it will start to feel that way. But right now, it doesn't feel like there's a Star Wars movie coming. Like all the buzz is around Starfighter. And I don't know if that's just because Sean Levy is a little more open with the production than like Jon Favreau and crew are, or like I just don't know.
I also think there's I've speculated before that I think there's kind of a new built-in marketing strategy with Starfighter, and I think that's why they're getting bigger names than they typically go for with the cast, and because you have Ryan Gosling that you can just wheel out there, and he has recently. I'm just particularly thinking about like the Barbie press junkets and everything. I think he's kind of become like a social media interview darling of types and stuff. So I think they almost have the marketing in mind with Starfighter, which is why we're already seeing stuff. We're already feeling that push a little bit. My hope is that we haven't heard stuff from the Mandalorian and Grogu that much, because it's just a bombastic story with twists and turns that we're never expecting, and they just want to keep it completely, under wraps until they're ready to put out in front of us. But that's wishful thinking, I think.
It's funny that you were saying that about Ryan Gosling, because it also made me think like the ridiculous, like almost kind of anti-Pedro Pascal push that was happening with Fantastic Four. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Like, let that die down a little bit more before we start ramping things back up. You know what I mean? Because Fantastic Four just came out. I don't know if it has anything to do with that, of maybe let's just pull back a little bit. It's just odd to me, and I want to know like where are we going with this. But we'll see. Hopefully we'll get a lot more tie-in stuff that maybe they just didn't announce, but they did announce a few things. I do think that they've got some things planned that people are going to be excited about, and they're trying some things a little bit differently. So, for example, they're going to be publishing very genre-specific novels, and it will let you know on the novel what kind of genre it is. And the first one of those being a romance novel, a Star Wars romance novel called Eyes Like Stars. It's YA, young adult, set 1.5 years before The Force Awakens. And it's going to be part of a new branding initiative, like I said. Now, that doesn't mean it's just going to be romance novels, Mac. I think that also means that there's going to be like mysteries, there's going to be thrillers, there's going to be horror novels.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very clear on the branding of the novels, what you're getting in these like almost one-off stories, which I think are great.
Yeah, I also think that's a good, a good call just from a marketing branding perspective. When you're browsing the shelves, especially now when you're considering everything that's in the EU and all of the new canon materials that have come out, it's like almost impossible to know where to start with some Star Wars reading if you're not, without kind of doing a little more research and stuff. Sometimes if you're a casual fan, I think that could be really overwhelming. And I think this, at least gives you a place to start. It's like, okay, I'm interested in reading. I normally like reading, mystery novels, right? I don't normally like reading romance novels or whatever, but I'm interested in the Star Wars universe. I can read the kind of book I like to read in, the Star Wars galaxy, with those characters and those themes and those ideas and everything. And I think that's a win. Especially, I mean, I'm excited for this, the first romance novel, because my favorite Star Wars book, I think, is still Lost Stars, which is a, young adult, romance focused, story on like star-crossed lovers and stuff. But through that story, you get one of the best overviews of like galactic history, especially from the prequels through the original trilogy, and then a peek afterwards. It was like where we first learned really about the Battle of Jakku and all that kind of stuff. So, just because it's a romance novel, I think people should keep an open mind about that kind of thing, just because even if you don't typically go for romance novels, you may find that there's some just really good Star Wars stuff in there too. But this will at least let everybody have a really good starting point for, I know I like, horror novels. I'll pick one of those up. I'm excited.
Yeah. And then the biggest news that came out of it was the announcement of a book called Star Wars Legacy. And it's set in between episode 8 and 9, kind of that year gap that we have. And it's going to be about Leia training Rey and that whole relationship.
Yeah.
And so I want to read the description of this because it kind of ties into the Mandalorian season 2 in a way too. So I want to read this and then we'll talk about it. But it says, after barely escaping the First Order on Krayt, Rey and the Resistance are struggling to rebuild. Her friends need the Last Jedi more than ever, but Rey feels alone and overwhelmed. Jedi tradition is built on masters and apprentices, and Rey's teacher is gone. Leia Organa tries her best to train Rey in the ways of the Force, as Luke did for her so many years ago, but Leia's knowledge is limited. Rey's lightsaber is broken, and the specter of Kylo Ren and regrets from the past haunt them both. How can Leia pass the torch when she herself is unsure of the way? But then the ancient Jedi texts offer a glimmer of hope. A long-forgotten Jedi temple on Tython might hold the key to repairing Rey's saber. Rey leaps at the chance to journey there, and to her surprise, so does Leia. Rey and Leia's nascent mentorship is put to the test when they discover the temple on Tython is filled with obscure clues to decipher and arcane trials to complete. As they work to unravel the temple's mysteries, they encounter a group of refugees living in its shadows, hiding from a First Order officer hot on the trail of two freedom fighters in their midst. With the threat of the First Order looming and secrets of the temple yet to be unlocked, the newly forged master and apprentice must confront their past, reach each other in the present, and decide what it means to carry the legacy of the Jedi into the future. Let's go! That sounds incredible to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it fills in so many gaps of, time periods that I want to know more about.
Yeah.
I want to know more about Rey and Leia's training together, just because I really want to know more about Leia's training and how much she knows and how much she can do. That's something we haven't really seen showcased, I always like Leia more as like a military or political leader. I think that's her real strengths and stuff. But the fact that she is a Jedi is interesting. And we don't really have tons of information on that aspect of her.
Not at all. And one of my favorite things about the book that it proposes is that like the temple on Tython, which we saw Tython in the season. Well, I mean, it's not the season finale, but the Book of Boba Fett episode. Mm-hmm. So chapter 14 of season 2 of The Mandalorian, they went to Tython. That's where Grogu reached out to Luke. That's all of that. It's that stuff. So to go to Tython, probably a different place on Tython. I'd imagine it's not the same exact place. But that's super exciting, like the trials and, maybe connecting it to the old Republic and maybe things before that. I think that's so cool. But then also I think it gives us this might give us a clue into where Starfighter is going. I think this is setting up where we're going beyond Starfighter, because there's a lot of rumors that, they're probably taking the child or the kid to Rey's Jedi Order. I don't know. I just feel like maybe that's the direction that we're kind of starting to point ourselves towards. Like, this is what we're doing. Now, I will say, kind of like with our Mandalorian and Grogu novel tie-in thing, I think this probably would have been best coming out in between episode 8 and episode 9, leading up to the Rise of Skywalker. This would be a great novel, but
yeah,
oh well.
that would have required there to have been a plan in place for how The Last Jedi was going to relate to the Rise of Skywalker, and I think there's never been a bigger like disconnected feeling between those two things, like just narrative thread wise,
right?
But like I think this could go a long way into helping fix some of those
100%.
issues and filling in some gaps where things now feel a little empty. I've had so many things my opinion on different things in Star Wars completely changed by reading auxiliary materials about them and getting a new perspective from characters we don't follow on screen and stuff like that. So I'm excited for this. This is huge. This is the biggest like publishing I think this is going to be the biggest kind of most important story in terms of tying into the saga films that's come out in a while.
Yeah.
It seems more important than a lot of things have been recently.
Yeah, and I think it will operate a lot like Adam Christopher's Shadow of the Sith book that I think helped the Rise of Skywalker so much. Like that book really did huge for me in terms of like when I read it, I was like, man, this makes Rise of Skywalker better in my mind. I think this is going to do that even tenfold, but then also maybe point us in the direction of where are we going after Starfighter? Where are we, like, what are we setting up here? Because I do think that's kind of maybe we're shifting back towards the sequel trilogy era. Yeah. And I kind of like that. And I think that kind of transitions us into our next topic, and I'll mention this real quick. There is a Keller and Beck and Jar Jar comic coming, written by Ahmed Best, but I also think that might tie into The Mandalorian.
With Grogu in a huge way, because I mean, Keller and Beck and Jar Jar, I think both could have, especially Keller, and we know his paths cross with Grogu, but it makes sense to have Jar Jar in the mix too, but.
That might be our tie-in. Like
okay, I see what you mean. Like this could be kind of serving as part of the road to the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Right. So like whenever if it starts in February, I think that's when it starts coming out, either January or February. Like by issue 5 or 6, we could be getting some like major revelations, and that's around when the movie's going to be coming out. So that could be like the tie-in. That could be one of them, and they just kind of subtly announced it and didn't say like this is part of the road to the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah. And it may be they may not want to put that on a project that's so like Jar Jar forward, But I do think narratively
they do.
They could. The possibilities are certainly there, like you were saying, that like, if the publication dates are kind of corresponding with when the movie's going to be coming out, they may be saving some big reveal until after people have seen The Mandalorian and Grogu, and then that can tie back into what Keller and Beck is doing with Grogu. But I just love that Ahmed Best is getting to write some stories in the Star Wars galaxy. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. So let's transition to some questions that we have from our Patreon members, and it's going to tie into what we're talking about with the MandoVerse, but then also kind of like pointing ahead towards the sequel trilogy. And really, that's the biggest thing that's, I think, on my mind, Mac, of like, how do we get from the MandoVerse era to the sequel trilogy? Because I feel like we're starting to make some inroads there. Yeah. But then, okay, so then the sequel trilogy happens. What's next? What do we do next? So I want to read this first question from Trix Scarata from our Discord. He said, would love to hear your speculation on how the current state of the MandoVerse leads to the sequel trilogy. And then Rob added specifically about Project Necromancer and its connection to Snoke and Palpatine. How does the Remnant go from being warlords to the First Order, and then what that change happens? Let's talk about, clearly we saw the Shadow Council in season 3 of The Mandalorian discussing this. Project Necromancer, and that's very clearly talking about Palpatine and Snoke. How do we get the First Order out of this in your mind?
So I'm gonna have to come clean about something, or I mean not come clean, but I think I need to go on record saying I don't think we can really put a whole lot of stock anymore in what we know from the Aftermath trilogy in terms of Rey Sloane heading out into the unknown regions with, presumably to meet up with the other members of the Shadow Council to kind of regroup and then come back into the galaxy. That's certainly what the Aftermath trilogy led us to believe was kind of the situation in very broad strokes. I don't see evidence that they're really trying to build towards that anymore, especially with adding Peridia and I think everything they've done with Thrawn and the unknown regions and the Chiss ascendancy and stuff like that. I just don't know that we can still be looking to. I think Rey Sloane as a character would have come up by now. On screen in live action, if that was still the big grand thing they were building towards. So I think we just need to kind of discard that information. I've had a hard time with speculating about all of this because having that in my head, just because that was a really formative idea for a long time before we got any more information on it. But I think certainly the cloning implications are the most obvious and consistent thread throughout the MandoVerse. Everything with Gideon and maybe him being a clone himself, but especially all the projects we've seen in the backgrounds of his facilities and stuff like that. I think certainly his work is building to Snoke, which is a stepping stone to Palpatine's return, just scientifically.
Actually, I agree with everything that you're saying. I think the Aftermath books serve as a base, kind of like with Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth came from the Aftermath books. The story doesn't match completely, but it matches enough. I think that's kind of what Aftermath is. It's like a foundation of this is kind of what it is, but whatever happens on screen is taking priority. So I think you're totally right on that. So here's how I will speculate in terms of how do we go from this Imperial remnant full of warlords who seemingly are working together but probably doing their own thing. How do we go from that to the First Order, and where does Thrawn fit in? So here's what I'm thinking. I think Thrawn is going to unite most of the warlords. Okay? I think Thrawn's going to come in and he's going to take charge, and not everybody's going to be on board. Yeah. But it's also like the Empire, and it's like House of Cards over there. So just, you got to watch your back. Yeah. And so what I'm thinking is going to happen is Thrawn is going to make a huge push into the galaxy, maybe even try to take Coruscant or something like that. Huge, huge battle. And at some point in the battle, whatever the origin of the First Order is going to turn on Thrawn. And that's going to be part of Thrawn's undoing. And they almost kind of look like saviors of the galaxy in a way of no, these are the good Empire people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's almost a big Death Watch operation. It's like what the Death Watch were trying to do on Mandalore a little bit with them being part of the Shadow Collective under Maul and everything, but then turning to get the public's opinion. Of course, that was all part of a grand plot. This wouldn't be. This would be an actual faction trying to seize some power. But I like that. That deals with a lot of issues, actually. I mean, Thrawn has been built up to this omnipotent, infallible opponent, right? He's tactically perfect. There's no way to outsmart him. You can't. No one has more drive. No one has more will. But this could be a good way to bring him down without him having like any of those character things being compromised. Like, it's not like he has to make a grand blunder or anything like that. Like, his biggest mistake could just be trusting in the Empire, and that's kind of where his undoing comes from.
One of the things, Mac, that we do know from the first Thrawn trilogy, not like his back, well, even his backstory too. He's not good at the political maneuvering of things.
Right. Because he wants to treat everything like a battlefield, and that's not how you play politics. That's not how you play that game. That's a game about subterfuge and espionage and backstabbing, lies, and theft, which I think he has a much more noble view of his, military career and stuff like that. I like that.
And I think that still lines up with what we know from the First Order in the Bloodline book with Leia, like a very similar situation where this group appears to it's like a false flag situation where this group appears to be attacking the New Republic and the First Order saves them. The First Order could have that's their origin of saving the galaxy. And maybe it's not like a huge deal, but you have this group of Imperials who are turn on him. He's losing the battle. Let's go ahead and look like we're the good guys and part of the helping the New Republic, even though we're not with them.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Just to kind of okay, and some of the citizens of the galaxy's mind of they're not so bad. They helped save us from Thrawn. And so I could totally see that happening.
That really helps support the idea that even so soon after a regime as terrible as the Galactic Empire, that there would still be any kind of support or apathy towards the First Order. It makes that more believable if they've done something like this, to preemptively get in everybody's good graces, kind of position themselves as the good guys.
And it could be simply as the New Republic is just not equipped to deal with Thrawn, they're because of de-arming and stuff, and it's we're gonna bring the Order, and we'll keep the galaxy safe. Use us as an option. It could just be as simple as that. As hey, it's chaotic with them. It's not with us.
Right. I definitely think I have just a lingering suspicion that Sigourney Weaver's character in The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be a stepping stone to the Resistance. I think I'm not saying she is already talking about the First Order and already forming
because there is no First Order
exactly. But I think her character is going to be representative of a lot of the conflicts going on. It's either her being kind of having her eyes open more than everyone around her, and her being wary about the rise of the First Order or whatever's happening that she can kind of see but nobody else can, or it could be that she's actually of this opinion that the New Republic is not the way to go. She's kind of working to transition to the First Order.
Maybe.
But I just have a lingering suspicion that she's going to be involved with some of that.
Just a lingering suspicion that there's more going on with her character. What is she about? We want to know more about her. So, okay, that was kind of fun. That makes a little sense in my head. Maybe that's where we're going with that. But let's go to Todd's question next. It says, after covering season 1 for a second time now, what storylines are still left hanging but might be resolved in the movie? Also, do you think Din will embrace more of a true leadership role in the movie, or will he continue to be the reluctant hero?
Yeah, I think as far as I think the second part's probably easier to get to than the first. Yeah. I've got some ideas for the first, but as far as Din being more of a proactive leader and less of the reluctant hero, I definitely think that that's the case. I think we've seen him have that growth already. I think he's become a lot more of a, someone who wants to step in and kind of help everyone through a situation by the end of season 3, but I do think, the thing that should be tested the most in the movie that is the Mandalorian and Grogu, it's presumably kind of the most focused on Din and Grogu's relationship and their eventual fate and stuff like that. I think the main emotional crux is going to have to be not Din not wanting to lead and stuff, but almost stepping back and letting Grogu have more agency and do more and having faith in Grogu's capabilities more and stuff. So I almost think, and that is leadership, by the way, that is proactive leadership, being able to remove yourself to let others shine and rely on other people's strengths instead of just your own and stuff. That's more of what true leadership is to me. So I think, as long as they're keeping that struggle of like, I want to be protective of Grogu and stuff like that, but also knowing that he's got a special kid that's got a lot to give to the galaxy, and balancing those two things. I think that's kind of mostly what the focus will be, because I think we've already seen him become a full-fledged leader, but I think the test will be if he can also lead by delegation and stepping out of the way a little bit.
Yeah, and if his question was hinting at like, does he become like a Mandalorian leader again? I think that would be like too flippy floppy right now.
Yeah,
I think eventually it's still on the table. I just don't think for this movie he would be.
I still think he's going to become like Mandalore for a day, ride like the Gladiator. Mythosaur into battle, and kind of fulfill that destiny that we all see for him and everything, but he's not gonna spend any time. I think he'll immediately turn it over to that's really the answer, but the dark saber will immediately go to somebody who is more capable. It could come back to Sabine, or Bo-Katan, I think is the obvious choice. I really want to see because she's never had her real true reign,
right?
And I still think that that's coming down the line for her. So I see, I don't think he's gonna become Mandalore. He may do that situationally for a day or something to for some technical reason. Yeah. But,
in terms of the first part of the question, like dangling storylines, I think the biggest one is like Grogu in terms of like, how did he get from the Jedi Temple to where we saw him in the very first episode? There's a huge gap there. Was he at Mount Tantus from the Bad Batch at one point?
Yeah.
Is Thrawn involved with that at any point? I just think that's a huge lingering question that could be picked up. I think it has a lot to do with the Hutts and the criminal underworld. Because think about where he was in the very first episode. He was with the underworld. And so I think that could be a huge thing in this movie. Like you said, it's called The Mandalorian and Grogu. So I think Grogu is going to have a huge emphasis. Every time, every season, we learn something new about Grogu. I think it's going to be the same for the movie, because this was going to be season 4. I think we're going to learn what happened to him and get the full backstory, Todd. So that's what I think that's what we're doing.
Just from season 1 in particular, I've got some ideas for stuff in other seasons, but just from season 1 in particular, honestly, I'd still like to see a revisiting of Din's droid prejudice. I do think like it's not a super integral part of his character or anything like that, but they do spend a lot of time on it in season 1, and I don't know that we've really had the nice bow wrapped on everything. That's just in terms of what we keep talking about week to week. I think that's one thing.
That is, that's a good one. All right, so Jeff is asking, what do you want to see in the Mandalorian movie and beyond Thrawn, Katana Fleet, etc.? Yeah, both of those things.
I mean, like absolutely. If we can have Thrawn in the Mandalorian and Grogu, give him to us. I just don't think we're doing anything nearly on that scale yet. We could. See, I would like a little Thanos style check-in or tease of Thrawn, because that's still something that for the big screen audience, people who are only going to the Star Wars films in the theater, that they don't know Thrawn. And so I do think that there's some he could a big impact could be made if he just has one little scene somewhere. I
think I would like, for what we've been talking about, like let's start putting some pieces on the board that indicate we're heading towards an end here.
Yeah. In terms of like
there's a plan in place.
Right. We've almost dealt with every end game there is for Din and Grogu, because where we left them, they're good. They're kind of settling down to start a new life, not end anything, Yeah. So I do think there needs to be, like you said, some indication of kind of where it's all going.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see more of both Din and Grogu's backstory. I think we've been talking a whole lot about wanting to see more of like, who's that Death Watch Mandalorian who rescued Din? Like, did they have a relationship going forward after that? What did that look like? Like, all that kind of stuff. I think this would be the place to do it, because again, the focus is never going to be more appropriate. But hopefully we'll see some of those kind of things.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think the next trailer really needs to hit. Yeah. Like they need to like open up the mystery box a little bit and show some things and get people excited, because the buzz, like we talked about at the top of the episode, it's just not there for the Mandalorian and Grogu, and I think they're gonna need it. I think they need a little boost. Hey, Lucasfilm, we will promote this movie. Like
we're already doing. I don't know what more we could do to promote the Mandalorian.
We're trying
Grogu.
Everything we can. Listen, I'm going to see this movie more times than humanly possible in a movie theater. That's my goal. And I'm going to try to get all of our friends to do it too. And that's you listening. We love you, especially you. So yeah, Katana Fleet would be awesome. Like some more tie-ins to the original Thrawn trilogy that came out in the early 90s would be sweet. But I don't know how much we're getting. It's hard to know, because like we don't know a lot about this movie, So that next trailer needs to be big in my mind. It needs to be a big one. All right, let's go to the next one from Kyle and kind of Jeff as well. But will Grogu speak in the movie? Yes.
Yeah. I think it's coming. It'll be like a one-word situation, but he'll speak. And
what if whatever he says is like a big deal? Like, what if there's like a secret thing that he knows, and he's, like, Grogu, you've been holding out on us, dude.
Like his first word is like the key to solving whatever galactic crisis is happening. I like that.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Like he has to speak, and he's like, oh, okay, well, fine, I'll say it.
I think Mando would be a cute first word. Instead, because like that'd basically be like him saying dad, or like dad first or whatever. Like, Mando.
What if he's like, what's a Star Wars bad word? What's the one that they use all the time in the Mandalorian?
Dank Ferric.
Yeah. What if it's that?
Yeah. Nerf herder.
It's probably that. It's probably Dank Ferric.
It's probably going to be Dank Ferric.
Now that we're talking about it, I think that's probably the answer.
I don't know that they're going to be able to resist that temptation.
Yeah. No, they resist no temptation over there.
That's not what John and Dave are about for the Mandalorian.
they
don't say no to themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, we're a yes group over here, baby.
Oh, man. All right. Next one is from, I don't think I wrote down who it was from, but I think it was from Ethan. What would you want to see in Rey's future Jedi Order? Would Ahsoka be involved? Old Ezra, Sabine, Jason, Gunji, Grogu? Can I answer first?
Yeah.
I think Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine and Jason are starting a different Jedi Order in a different galaxy.
I also think that's more likely. Just they've been so carved out as their own little crew. Like that Rebels little family has just really cemented itself in a lot of people's hearts and stuff. So I think it makes sense to keep them together and have them on kind of separate adventures, separate endeavors. You can tell stories that are maybe not affected by everything that's happening in the rest of the galaxy and stuff like that.
Exactly. And this will go into our last question a little bit, but like you could have that whole Jedi crew, like if they started their own Jedi Order in a different galaxy.
Yeah.
There's a threat that pops up in that galaxy. They fight it. One of the Jedi have to come back to this galaxy and warn Rey's Jedi Order. Like, there's so much that you could do of like, oh my gosh, they're on completely different trajectories, or like maybe there are connections or whatever. You can do whatever you want. You could have your own TV show universe in that galaxy. All of it. You can do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like those characters specifically will not be involved in Luke's Jedi Order or Rey's Jedi Order. I think they're going to be Ahsoka's Jedi Order.
Right. Yeah. I would agree with that. Because I think, I mean, if Ahsoka was going to be coming back to the galaxy at large and staying there instead of going, being on Peridea and stuff like that. I think she would probably she would be around and like be involved with Rey's Jedi Order, but I don't know that she'd be like living there, being a permanent teacher or anything. I think she's on this very particular path of hers that she would continue to walk, kind of doing her own thing out in the galaxy. We also just don't even know if she's going to be a character who is available to be, in too many more like new Jedi Orders for too much longer and stuff like that.
I will also say this is getting a little crazy. I think all the Mandalorians go to that galaxy too.
I mean, honestly, that would be a very fun thing. They do pose a general problem for the rest of the galaxy, and I think they also would really resonate with the challenge of like going out to tame a wild galaxy.
Yes.
And I think they would really like delight in that pursuit.
Well, I mean, and think about it. Like, where are they in the sequel trilogy? Where are they? Like, their absence allows the First Order to rise in the galaxy, in my mind, of like, because I feel like if they're in a healthy spot, they're not letting that happen.
And I mean, we don't know what's going on with Mandalore during the sequel trilogy, really.
I think it's abandoned. I don't think anybody's there.
Yeah. It sounds crazy just having an entire people group up and move to a different galaxy, but I do think that's more probable than it maybe sounds on the outset. Yeah,
I do too. Next question. Do we think we return to Atten at some point and maybe even get Ja Nawood? I'll tell you this. I think Ja Nawood is in the Mandalorian Grogu. I think Jude Law's in it.
That'd be great. That'd be a good surprise. Yeah. That'd be a good surprise. Because he could be they could have to go see him for any number of reasons if they're doing a whole underworld, adventure. I could see that. I definitely think. I think before at Atten, Jad Nawood is the first thing that's on the list to get revisited from Skeleton Crew. I think if anything comes to kind of cross over into the broader MandoVerse, it's him. Mm-hmm. I think that there was a really nice self-contained story that happened otherwise. I do think the kids could go on to do something and have other adventures. But the thing that I see really coming into play for the rest of the stories is Jad. That character, we need to know. I want to know so much more about him. I want to see what he does. He's Jedi Hondo. That's cool.
Yes, he's the best, dude. I really enjoyed his character. I need to rewatch that entire series. It's
coming about that time. It's a good like end of the year holidays time show. Like I think maybe it might be a Thanksgiving show. I think it might become a Thanksgiving show for me.
I think so. too. All right, last one from Ethan. What are your thoughts on something like the Vong, Yuzan Vong, or Grisk as a future antagonist? Yes, please. Especially the Vong. The Grisk are a lamer version of the Yuzan Vong. I said it. Or what about the Zepho? Yes, that would be cool too. And then he has a theory. The idea that Abeloth either founded or directly inspired the Nightsister clan, since they're like very much about the matriarchy and the mother and that sort of. Well, I like that idea a lot.
It also works just from like a cosmology or like a magic system standpoint, because you've got the daughter who's kind of the patron of the light side of the Force. You've got the son who's the patron of the dark side. But the Nightsisters, and they're not really doing either of those. So I think it makes sense for them to have a different kind of correspondent in the cosmology of Star Wars for their kind of sorcery. It makes sense that maybe they would be directly kind of founded or deriving power from Abeloth. And then I don't think the father probably has a correspondent, being, the balance between everything.
Just the Force.
Yeah, he may have. I kind of like to think of our main characters as being his main purview. So he's the reason why there's a chosen one who comes to balance the Force, and like he's the kind of the benevolent force behind all the coincidences that work out for our heroes. And every time somebody looks the other way when a distraction happens, it's kind of I like to think that he doesn't have like an order or a kind of power in the study of a discipline or anything like that, but I think he's orchestrating the events that give us the saga. In an effort to keep balance between everything. That's how I think of it anyway. That's kind of a big aside. But so all that saying, I think Abeloth could be directly tied into the Nightsisters. I like the Zepho for the big bad antagonist after stuff,
because it's Force related.
It's Force related. I like that we're already doing so much lore exploration in the like Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games, because we're building that. They've already been here. They're already aware of us. I'm always fascinated by stories of anybody who has anything to do with like humanity's founding or guiding it or anything, then coming back to interact again. Think about like the Alien franchise, like the engineers doing that. That's kind of how I see the Zepho. And I think that's a really interesting thing. It provides more conflict, like from an emotional standpoint, than just like a swarm of a horde of beasts coming to attack everybody. I know there's other things about the Vong and Grisk and stuff, but
hey, wait a second. The Yuzan Vong are way more interesting than just a horde of beasts. Okay,
I know, but
Put some respect on their name.
They're essentially orcs in Star Wars, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So, how interesting.
That's what I mean. I just think they have. I mean, I know that they have all kinds of sentient, ambitions and guiding impulses and stuff like that. But I think the Zepho would be easier for us to understand. It'd be less trying to relate to
100%.
An animalistic species and more like relating to an elder of our own heritage or something like that.
Absolutely. But I will say that the new Jedi Order, which is supposedly like Rey's movie name, the villains in that were the Yuzan Vong. So
we've got the Grisk and the Zepho in the new canon, and we do not have the Vong
yet.
So I think we'd be
Dave
more
Filoni
likely.
almost put them in the Clone Wars, by the way.
That would have been wild. That would have really, really thrown some wrenches and some stuff.
The
amount of things that almost made it into the Clone Wars to throw the entirety of Star Wars canon completely off its axis, it's a long list.
I mean, I feel like that's what the Mortis gods are, though. Like it kind of like those are the things that actually made it in, and it threw everything off its axis. So, All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I know that I did, and I love talking about all these things with you, Mac. And that means next week we are continuing the Mandalorian Rewatch with Chapter 9, The Marshal, Season 1, Episode 1.
Boom.
Or Season 2, Episode 1. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
I'm so excited, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. This was a great little catch our breath situation, though. It was good to catch up on some news, keep track of where everything is in development and all of that. Talk about some publishing news, and then kind of speculate about where we think all of this is headed. I think this has been a great little breather week. But like Alex said, next week we're going to be back with that new Mandalorian Rewatch breakdown. We're getting into season 2. I almost made the same mistake.
I know, we need some Starbucks or something.
We're going to be getting into that. We're going to hang out with Cobb Vanth. We're going to go see what's going on Tatooine. It's going to be a great time. If you like what we do and you want to support us, a great thing you can do is just leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. That does a whole lot to just help get our show in front of new eyes and stuff like that. If you really like what we do and you want to support us financially and get access to over 100 bonus content episodes and a amazing Discord community that's active all the time and doing great things over there, you can get all that for just $2 a month at patreon.com/Mandalorian Watch. Go check that out. We'd appreciate it a lot. But yeah, we're on YouTube, on all the socials. Go leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. You can watch us over there if you want to see what we look like and everything. We are trying to build that audience, just because we're kind of starting from scratch over there. But yeah, it's we'll be back next week with more Mandalorian Rewatch. But until then, keep the watch.